The storm was a living thing that night, a howling tempest that clawed at the windows of my old Jeep as I navigated the winding mountain road. Rain, thick and relentless, sheeted across the headlights, turning the asphalt into a slick, treacherous ribbon. I'd been foolish, perhaps, to set out at all. A late-night call, a desperate plea from a source I couldn't ignore, had pulled me from the relative safety of my apartment in the city and sent me hurtling towards the desolate heart of the Blackwood Mountains. I'm a paranormal investigator, though I prefer the term anomalous phenomena researcher. I chase the whispers, the shadows at the edge of perception, the things that make the rational mind recoil. Most of my cases are ambiguous. A cold spot in a room, a fleeting apparition, the kind of thing easily dismissed as imagination or a trick of the light. But every now and then, something real, something truly malevolent, claws its way into our world. And those are the cases that keep me up at night. The call had come from a Dr. Alistair Finch, a name I vaguely recognized from some obscure parapsychology journals. He was frantic, his voice a strained, trembling whisper. He spoke of Shadowbrook Asylum, a place long abandoned, a place with a dark history, a place where, he claimed, something terrible was happening. He wouldn't elaborate, only begged me to come, to see for myself, before it was too late. Shadowbrook. The name itself sent a shiver down my spine. Even in its heyday, it was a place of suffering, a repository for the broken and the damned. Stories of brutal treatments, of inhumane experiments, of screams echoing through the night, clung to it like a shroud. It had been closed down decades ago after a series of incidents, fires, disappearances, unexplained deaths. The official story was structural collapse, but the rumors whispered of something far more sinister. The road climbed higher, the trees crowding in on either side, their branches skeletal fingers reaching for the Jeep. The wind shrieked through the gaps, sounding like tortured souls. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white, the beam of my headlights cutting a narrow swathe through the oppressive darkness. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I saw it. Shadowbrook. It loomed out of the darkness, a monstrous silhouette against the storm-racked sky. A vast Gothic structure of crumbling stone and shattered windows. It looked like a decaying cathedral dedicated to madness. The rain lashed against its walls, turning the dark stone slick and gleaming, and the wind howled through the broken window panes, creating a symphony of despair. Even from a distance, I could feel its oppressive presence, a weight of sorrow and dread that seemed to emanate from its very foundations. I parked the Jeep a safe distance from the main gate, the headlights illuminating the rusted iron bars, twisted and broken in places, as if something had tried to escape. The gate was chained, shut, a heavy padlock securing it, but the years and the elements had taken their toll. I pulled out my bolt cutters, the cold metal reassuring in my gloved hands, and with a few sharp snaps, the chain fell away. The grounds were a wasteland, overgrown and choked with weeds. The once manicured lawns were now a tangle of thorns and brambles. The wind whipped through the skeletal trees, their branches scraping against the decaying stone of the asylum, creating an eerie, rhythmic scratching. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, decay, and something else, something acrid, something that made my stomach churn. I approached the main entrance, a massive arched doorway that seemed to swallow the darkness. The heavy oak doors were rotten and splintered, hanging precariously on their hinges. I pushed them open with a groan, the sound echoing through the empty halls like a death knell. The interior was even worse than I had imagined. Decades of neglect had taken their toll. Plaster peeled from the walls, revealing the raw stone beneath. The air was thick with the stench of mold, mildew, and something indefinable. Something that smelled like sickness and despair. The once grand hallways were now littered with debris. Broken furniture, shattered glass, rusted medical equipment. The silence was profound, broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water echoing through the vast emptiness. My flashlight beam danced across the walls, revealing glimpses of the asylum's former life. Peeling wallpaper with faded floral patterns, rusted bed frames with torn and stained mattresses, scattered remnants of patient belongings, a child's doll, a worn-out book, a broken pair of spectacles. Each object seemed to whisper a story of suffering, of loss, of lives shattered within these walls. I followed a long, winding corridor, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew colder, the oppressive feeling intensifying. I could feel eyes on me, unseen, malevolent. My hand tightened on the grip of my EMF meter, the needle twitching erratically. Something was here, something powerful. I reached a large, open room. It had once been a common area, perhaps, but now it was a scene of utter devastation. Tables and chairs were overturned, their legs broken and twisted. A grand piano lay on its side, its keys scattered across the floor like broken teeth. And, in the center of the room, there was a circle. It was crudely drawn on the floor, a chaotic jumble of symbols and sigils, scratched into the stone with something sharp. It looked ancient, primal, a twisted parody of some forgotten ritual. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a place of suffering. This was a place of darkness. As I examined the circle, the temperature in the room plummeted. A gust of icy wind swept through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. I was plunged into absolute darkness, the silence broken only by the pounding of my own heart. Then I heard it. A sound. A low, guttural growl, deep and resonant, that seemed to vibrate through the very foundations of the building. It was a sound of pure malevolence, of ancient hunger, of something not of this world. The growl grew louder, closer. I fumbled for my flashlight, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Finally, I managed to turn it on, the beam of light cutting through the darkness. But it was too late. Something was moving in the shadows. A shape, tall and gaunt, its form shifting and indistinct like smoke in the wind. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent red light, burning with an ancient hatred. It moved with unnatural speed, gliding across the floor towards me, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it wasn't human. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen with terror, trapped in the beam of those glowing red eyes. The creature reached out to me, its hand a clawed, skeletal thing, and I screamed. The sound seemed to break the creature's hold on me. I stumbled backwards, my flashlight beam dancing wildly, and turned and ran, the creature's growl echoing behind me. I ran through the darkness, through the twisting corridors and the decaying rooms, the creature always just behind me, its growl, a constant reminder of the horror that pursued me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away, to escape the darkness of Shadowbrook. Finally, I reached the entrance. I burst through the doors, out into the storm, the rain washing over me, cleansing me for a moment of the filth of that place. I didn't stop running until I reached my jeep, my lungs burning, my heart pounding like a drum. I drove away from Shadowbrook as fast as I could, the asylum receding into the darkness behind me, a monstrous silhouette against the storm-racked sky. But even as I drove, I knew that I would never truly escape the horror of that place. The memory of those glowing red eyes, the sound of that guttural growl, would haunt me forever. Dr. Finch was gone. I found his car abandoned a few miles from the asylum. The locals said he'd been acting strange in the weeks leading up to my visit, talking about shadows and whispers, about something ancient and evil lurking in the ruins of Shadowbrook. No one had seen him since the night of the storm. I never went back to Shadowbrook. The place is sealed off now, the authorities finally taking the locals' warnings seriously. But sometimes, on a dark and stormy night, when the wind howls through the trees, I swear I can still hear that growl, a low, guttural sound that chills me to the bone. And I know, with a certainty that makes my blood run cold, that whatever I saw in Shadowbrook is still there, waiting in the darkness.